after a while, you still haven't gotten that first sale. And the truth is, there could be lots of different factors as to why buyers haven't purchased your gig. And some of that could be the category that you're in and how many other sellers that you're competing against. So I wanted to give you my 5 tips on how to optimize your gig to get that first sale. But before we get started, if you're a longtime seller on Fiverr, let us know how long it took you to get your first sale. There's this myth that if you just put up a gig, it will immediately sell. So by sharing your story in the comments below, you're helping other people who might be in that same boat you are in. So tip number 1, maximize your gig description. So when it comes to creating a gig, lots of new sellers already know how to create a title and select a category and publish a gig. But when I look at a lot of new sellers' gig descriptions, I can immediately see why people aren't buying their gig. And that's because their descriptions aren't descriptive. I know sometimes as a new seller, you're eager to get a gig up and selling, so you rush through the process of creating your first gig. And that could be where your downfall is. Having a detailed gig description not only helps your buyers understand what you're offering, but also provides more text for search results. And the text that you put in your gig description help you rank in search. And as a new seller, the best way to get in front of eyes is to become discoverable via search. So if you don't believe me, do an experiment. Go to Fiverr and search my first name, Wayne. Now, I don't obviously put my name in any of my gig titles, but my gig comes up in search because my name is in the gig description. The same also happens to be true for this seller, whose name is also Wayne. So make sure you have a text-rich description that uses SEO keywords that align with your offerings. And along those lines is tip number 2, maximize the opportunities that Fiverr gives you when creating your gig. So Fiverr gives you lots of opportunities to make your gig much more detailed, including things like uploading samples and/or PDFs for potential buyers to click on. But they also offer a frequently asked questions section, and you'll want to use that to further flesh out your gig description. And moreover, now your Fiverr profile is displayed directly on your gig page. So now it's more important than ever to make sure that your profile is complete, because that's one of the best ways to give potential buyers a detailed description of your background. So tip number 3, create a compelling gig video. So it's no secret that gigs with gig videos convert significantly higher than those without. And your gig video is probably the first thing that any potential buyer will click on. Why? Because you can click on the thumbnail of a gig with a gig video to play that video directly within the search results. So if a buyer is searching for something specific and your gig comes up and has that clickable play button, regardless of the title or thumbnail image, they are definitely more inclined to click on that and watch your video. So your gig video has to be on point because it's potentially the first point of contact with you and a buyer. And if you really want to take your gig video to the next level, try appearing on camera. Even if you feel a little uncomfortable doing so, by appearing on camera, your potential buyer will see you. And when it comes to purchasing a gig, it really boils down to one person wanting to work with another person. I mean, think about it. We have generally job interviews for that specific reason, right? To meet people face to face. So let me put it this way. If a buyer is deciding between you and another gig and your descriptions and everything are similar, but you have a gig video of which the buyer feels like they know you, that could be the one factor that gets them to buy your gig over the other. So that leads to tip number 4, and that is price your gig accordingly. So as a new seller, it can be really hard on a platform like Fiverr that is so social proof based. Generally, established sellers with gigs with lots of reviews get picked over new sellers with no reviews. So one of the ways that you as a new seller can compete against long-term sellers is with your price point. The reality is there are buyers out there who are just looking to save some money. I mean, that's why they're on the Fiverr platform in the first place, right? Because they think everything is $5, which you and I both know isn't true. But underpricing your gig initially can really help to generate immediate sales, especially if you've already implemented tips 1, 2, and 3. When you first start selling on Fiverr, earning money is not the most important thing. The most important thing is getting reviews. Not only does that help you level up your seller status, but it shows other potential buyers that people have already purchased your gig. I mean, think about it this way. When we go onto Amazon and we look at products to buy, you're looking at products with the highest and most reviews, right? And the same can be said about gigs on Fiverr. So the way that you can stand out and compete is to underprice against your competitors. But understand that as you gain reviews and start growing your business, have a plan to scale up your rates so you get paid for what you're worth. And lastly, tip number 5, be patient. You know, we live in a world of instant gratification, where we can pretty much go out and get whatever we want almost immediately. And the same thing is true about Fiverr, right? You can set up a profile, create a gig, and put it up for sale immediately. But it doesn't mean people will actually buy your gig, and it can take time for it to gain some traction. But by keeping track of your gig analytics, you'll be able to see how many impressions and clicks your gig actually gets. And yes, those can be low numbers at the beginning, but that's why tips 1 through 4 are so important, because as a new seller, you want to maximize your conversion rate for each impression you get. So if you post a gig and it's not fully complete, and a potential buyer clicks on it and sees that, you're immediately going to get passed over for someone else. But if they see that you've put in some work into creating your gig, that can get you on their shortlist. So early on, you want to do everything you can to maximize your conversion rate for those impressions. So hopefully these 5 tips will help you get your first sale on Fiverr. If you got a tip of your own, let us all know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, Fiverr friends.
If you want to lead something, start by saying, this is what I care about. This is what I want to do and why I think you should care about it and you should want to help. Hardly a day goes by that I don't think how fast my life has flown. How I remember as if it were yesterday, the first day I became president. Hardly